post-World War II, post-Shoah, post-Holocaust. You have Gershom Scholem and probably a team that are trying to discover and save manuscripts. What happened there and what did they discover?
Well, that's a huge story in of itself that much has been written about. As we know, the Nazis, in addition to all of their other horrific crimes, were also super major plunderers of anything of value. But that certainly, as we know, for example, artworks. Okay, that's a very famous topic now. But they also stole millions of books for several reasons. And then this is after the initial stage of burning books, which I think they decided was counterproductive for several reasons. They switched over to stealing books for two main reasons. One was financial. There were a lot of rare books that were worth a lot of money, and they were stealing anything of value. The second reason is that they wanted to do research on the Jews. They wanted to be able, after the war, after they thought they would, God forbid, have killed all the Jews, they wanted to make a big museum in memory of the Jews, and they wanted to establish an institute for the study of the Jewish question, and they felt that they needed all these books to study Judaism. So they basically systematically plundered Jewish libraries, whether it be of yeshivot, of libraries that were held in Jewish rabbinical seminaries, in regular universities and regular libraries, as well as in private collections. And they brought them to various places, mostly in Germany. And after the war, it was known that there was this tremendous amount of material that had been plundered, and various teams, various places in the Jewish world decided these books had to be saved. Now, being saved, initially, one of the theories of being saved meant sending them back to the original owners. Now, that turned out to be basically a non-starter because most of the original owners were dead, or the institutions that they'd come from no longer existed, or the Jewish communities that they had come from no longer existed. In addition to that, the idea of sending a lot of them back to communist countries where the Jewish life was already being restricted was also seen as very problematic. So basically, in several places in Israel, in the States, and in England, teams, organizations were set up to try to save Jewish books. In America, it was largely run by Salo Baron, a Jewish historian from Columbia, together with Lucy Davidovich, who was a historian of the Holocaust. In England, I believe it's the historian Cecil Roth was involved in it. And in Israel, the Hebrew University set up a committee headed by Gershom Scholem and sent him with one other researcher in 1946 for a year-long trip to go to various libraries and depots where the books were held, to try to both classify and catalog them, and also to see what could be saved and what could be returned to its owners, what could be brought to Israel. And he ended up spending a lot of that time in a big American army depot in Offenbach, Germany, where the Allies had brought, I think, over 1 million books from all over Germany to be dealt with. And Scholem worked there for a long time, and he also he classified a lot of books and manuscripts, and he decided what was valuable. And with the help of an American army chaplain, Jewish army chaplain, he actually smuggled out a large amount of books from that. And that's a whole story in itself. And I said, a lot's been written about this topic, and is obviously somewhat controversial. And a lot of these books made their way to Israel. The ones that are in the National Library are called Otzrot HaGolah, the treasures of the exile. And one of my colleagues, Daniel Lipson, has written a lot and taught a lot recently about this topic. He's been researching and cataloging all these books, but that's really a different topic. But Scholem spent the better part of a year in Europe, basically saving Jewish books, some of which, in the end, there was basically a deal cut, and most of them came to Israel, some went to the States, some went to England, and some did go back to various Jewish communities and institutions in other parts of Europe, in Eastern Europe primarily. And I should just point out that when Scholem came back from this year, he basically had I don't know if I would say nervous breakdown might be too hard, but he was very depressed. And for close to a year, he didn't do very much work. and he was facing his brother Werner, who he was very close with, had been murdered in Buchenwald, and Scholem was in Berlin and saw the city that he grew up in, that he loved very much, had been utterly destroyed. And then he was in contact with so many destroyed Jewish communities, and he met survivors that were just, it was the whole thing for him was really overwhelming. And he really, it took him quite a while till he sort of pulled himself back together after having done that mission.